Oh, yep, there you go.
Oh, yeah. See, like, all the dogs trying to bite you, my dog's trying to love on you.
Oh, it hurts.
Leave it, Rain. Leave it.
Hey everyone, it's Kara Dixon with Candid With Kara, and today we are with Scott Taylor.
What's up? How's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
It's good to do another Candid with Kara with you.
Yes, this is our second Candid With Kara, but today we are joined with Rain,
This is Rain,
who will probably be the star of this show.
no doubt.
So how are you doing?
Good, very good.
That's great. So can you tell me what you're running for?
Sure, running for U.S. Congress here in the 2nd District.
All right.
Again.
Yeah. So what made you want to run again?
Lost a bet. Just kidding. No, you know, look, I like to help people, like to solve problems, like to get things done. And obviously we'd served before in this position, and it was certainly an honor. And everywhere I went afterwards, whether I was at the grocery store or the beach or just walking down the street or at a restaurant, folks were like, please run again. We need you. We're not happy with the representation. We'd like you to go. And if you're motivated by service like me, when you hear that, how do you say no?
And so, how would you describe yourself to people who might not remember you from before when you served? How would you, what would you say to them to get them to vote for you?
Well, I'm results oriented. I'm a problem solver, and I have a successful track record of doing so, whether I was a state delegate or a U.S. congressman. I'm totally calm in chaos, and we're in a chaotic time, of course, in the nation. And I like to look forward, of course, and figure out how to get things done, how to move policy, how to basically turn rhetoric into policy, and I'm good at it.
All right, so we're out here on Pontoon.
Yes.
Cue the Pontoon song. What is that song called? On the Pontoon? I don't know.
I don't know any pontoon songs. But I guess I have to get one.
Yeah. Well, so what are we going to be doing out here? Just hanging out?
Just hanging. I mean, I like to, boat, obviously, and this summer, of course, during COVID, it was, I think a lot of people took up boating, if you will, to be able to do something. And I like being out here with my son, tubing with his friends, and whether we're fishing or tubing or doing a sunset cruise with the dog, I enjoy being on the water.
All right. Well, I'm excited to be here. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Come on, girl. Leave it.
If you had unlimited time, money, resources, power, what is one issue that you would solve?
One issue that I would solve? I guess the first thing that pops into your head is world peace, right? But I think hunger, hunger. I've spent a lot of time in places like Yemen, where there's like hunger's a real problem, and it's even here. I mean, especially during COVID, you've seen the food line, the food bank lines have grown, and that's something that I've volunteered over throughout the years at the food bank. I'm appreciative of what they do, but I've also been in the Amazon and Yemen, where there's like real problems with hunger, and so I think that.
Second question: who is an inspiration to you?
My big brother Andy. So my big brothers, big sisters. Of course, I'm blessed to have a big brother who changed the whole trajectory of my life. I met him when I was like 12. He's 81, and that's the guy for me. I talked to him this morning.
So it's not Andy Fox.
It's not Andy Fox. Andy Fox is a good dude, but he's not Andy Jones. Andy Fox has actually interviewed Andy Jones and me before.
Oh wow, yeah.
Okay.
Push it forward.
Push it forward.
A little bit.
Yep. Ease right into it. There you go. There you go.
Is that it?
There you go. Come on.
Oh no. What if I hit those things over there?
You're gonna be totally
You mean
fine.
those things a mile away from here?
That's not a mile. I ran track, and that's definitely not a mile. Don't worry. We're jamming. Are you having fun, Rain?
Yeah.
Are you jamming?
What is something that's on your bucket list?
On my bucket list, my son and I go on a trip every year, and we're not there yet, like on this because of COVID, of course we haven't been able to go to it, but months ago, and he told me when he was like 4 was the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why, but to be with my son at the Eiffel Tower at the bottom of it, that's on my bucket list for sure. But I love to travel, like adventures and stuff like that. So I got some weird ones, like taking the Russian train from Moscow to Kazakhstan and stopping in small towns, just like all kinds of weird stuff. But I love to travel, meet new people, and learn about new cultures and stuff like that. It must be nice.
See?
I had never seen a musical before at all.
Washington on your side. It must be nice. It must be nice.
That's a fantastic show.
What is an embarrassing story that you want to share that you want people to know about?
I gotta think about that. That's a hard one to come right off the top of my head.
Yes, I have some. I don't want to share them. So we had some people that say they don't have any.
I definitely have embarrassing stories, but some of them I don't want to share in mixed company, and then some of them, just in general, I probably don't want to share. But there's none pop in my head.
You still need some votes.
Come on, still need votes. Rain.
Does Rain have any embarrassing stories?
That's off the record.
Where are the little lights at?
Oh, you want a little mood lights?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what?
Oh, yeah. Are you here for the party? So it's been a pretty crazy year. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. People were at home. Life's a lot different. What would you say to them to encourage them? What message would you have?
Well, I think first of all, you have to preface this by saying, humans have dealt with pathogens forever, right? We've always dealt with them. And this is scary. There's no question about it. There are people who are very susceptible to this, and it's dangerous for a lot of folks. At the same time, I'm confident that we're going to learn from this. We're going to prepare. We'll take safety precautions. We'll get our kids back to school safely so that they don't fall behind. We'll get our economy back on track. I'm just confident in the American people to, if you give them the correct information, which quite frankly, some of the reporting, no offense, but some of the reporting and some of the political rhetoric, I think, is not helpful for people. But I'm confident that we'll get through this. We always have, and we'll figure out a better way to handle crises like this in the future. We'll get manufacturing back here to make sure that we have critical medical supplies for folks. But I'm confident in the American people's ability to get back off their knees, dust themselves off, and walk forward.
Congress had to respond to the COVID crisis earlier this year. What do you think Congress did well, and what do you think they could have done better?
Let me say, look, it's not an easy job for anyone. Regardless, if there's something that's new like this and it's scary, then people are trying to understand what it is, and then the scientists were sort of all over the place too, because they were looking at certain things, and was it mask, no mask, lockdown, no lockdown? Does it spread over the surface? Is it not? Is it airborne? It was very difficult. And there's a whole website, COVID Scholar, that has thousands of articles on this. And so I think that policymakers, it's tough for them because you're in the middle of a crisis, but you have to be able to look with clarity through a crisis and see what the shortfalls are and how we can help people. And that's something that me personally, when I was looking at all this, I realized that we couldn't get PPE because 80% of the PPE is in China, and China was not playing very nice. They were shutting stuff down. They were using it to give it to European nations for diplomacy reasons. Meanwhile, the world's relying on them. Virginia couldn't get PPE. The U.S. government was trying to surge into places like New York, which had big problems. And so, fortunately for this area, we have companies that do hard things in hard places around the world and have relationships with governments and stuff. So I was able to connect Centera's leadership with a company, and then also work with the company to secure airflow, because there was less than 20% of the world's airflow was flying. So we used an Azerbaijani flight backed up by UAE and Qatari flights in case we needed it, and we delivered 50 tons the first trip of PPE to backstop Centera, who nurses were reusing disposable masks and stuff like that, and even the Northern's government, I was texting with them trying to supply them as well so they could get it, because the whole world was competing for this. And so I think you in times like that, you have to look with clarity through chaos and figure out what you need to do right now and help folks. Congress did well with the CARES Act, of course. It's not perfect. We'll be able to look back and say, hey, this was unnecessary and stuff like that. But when you're in a firefight, you're not counting your bullets, right? You're winning the fight, right? So you can look back and debrief and figure out what didn't work and what we can do better moving forward. But I'm thankful that they actually did that. That being said, now you need flexibility in that the CARES Act, for example, there's a lot of money that's appropriated but not allocated, and there needs to be flexibility for some of these hard-hit industries like restaurants and tourism and stuff, especially for here, who via the governor's mandates and other governors and other political decisions really shut them down. I didn't like that, of course. That's horrible when you're calling someone's livelihood, their life's work, their family business non-essential. That's crazy to me, especially when some of these stores were selling the same things as like the big stores were selling, but they're essential and they're not, which is crushing our folks. So moving forward, we got to get relief directly for the folks that need it. There needs to be flexibility for restaurants and other industries that are very hard hit. And then we got to get manufacturing back here. We're relying on China for almost 80% of our PPE, our critical medicines, life-saving medicines, the active ingredients. People don't even know this, that over 80% of that and over-the-counter drugs that we take every day are made in China, where we don't have quality control. The FDA doesn't have the budget to be able to go there and check, or the authority to go to some of these factories in China. It's insane. So that's a national security issue as well, and we should never be relying on any country, let alone China, for PPE and stuff like that. So lots of lessons learned over the past 6 months. I think that some of the political decisions, the overbearing political decisions that were even well-intended, that try to take away your freedoms, I think were out of line, quite frankly. And hopefully, looking back, legislatures like Virginia's legislature will look back and say, okay, the governor, yes, you have a lot of power, rightfully so, in an emergency, so you can make things happen and mobilize things and stuff like that. However, we think you overstepped a little bit, and let's tweak it moving forward. So I'm hopeful that we actually do that, because in some instances, and again, I don't envy the governor's job, for example. I mean, I know it's tough. A lot of his decisions in this crisis were tough for him. At the same time, one man shouldn't be putting people's livelihoods at risk based on political decisions, and saying they're using data and science, but not showing the data and science and for reporters and stuff like that, whether it's nursing homes or jails or just data tracing, shutting down restaurants, no alcohol after 10, because at 10:01 you're going to get the coronavirus. You know what I mean? But that's crazy to me. And then not backing it up with data tracing, which we're paying people to do data tracing to show if there was clusters or outbreaks in those places. So I know that was all over the place in that answer, but hope that answers your question.
Okay. I think it does. All right, big election coming up in November.
Oh, is there election?
That's what I heard. What do you think?
Heard something about it.
What do you think will be the historical significance of this presidential election?
It's very significant. I mean, you really have two diverging paths and a choice for America. And it's interesting when I say this fairly often about the president, and regardless of what you think of the man personally, or even his policies, when you look back through history and you look at presidents that we revere, right, or that we talk about, both parties, Lincoln, Reagan, JFK, TDR, FDR, each one of those presidents in their time were highly controversial. Hell, most of them got shot. They were very controversial in their time, but they were also presiding over very transformative times in our nation. And I think when you look at where we are as a country, both domestically and certainly internationally, we're in some pretty transformative times. You've had, I'll start internationally and take it back domestically. We've had this long peace since after World War II, where the United States basically created the world order, if you will. We at least led to create the world order, and it's kept the peace for 70 years. But if history is a guide, that's a long time. For to have an established international order like that, it's a long time. So I think it might even be unprecedented. That's fraying, and things are. We were the uni power, right? And then the Russians tried to compete with us, so they collapsed, of course. and now you have a rising China and a massive transfer of wealth that's happened over to them, and they're culturally they're a lot different than us. The way they view the world, the way they view human rights or not view them, is a lot different than us, and they're absolutely trying to supplant the United States as the first the regional leader in Asia and then the world leader. And I think that we've known this as a country for 3 decades, and presidents have talked about it, right? This president is just the first one to actually do something about it and stand up to China and say, hey, they're cheating on trade, they're stealing IP from us, they're building up their military just to defeat the United States. So this is a big deal for our country and for the world, quite frankly, internationally, and what's going to happen over the next century. And then domestically, you have the same thing. Like you have very different policies on the left and the right now. To me, on the left, a lot of their policies are just absolutely unacceptable. It's changing the face of the United States, and we can drill down into specifics. But when you look at trying to just like defund the police, for example, like that makes the most vulnerable of us unsafe. Totally. And, that makes people like my family, single mother, 4 kids in the house, working poor, low socioeconomic status. Like that puts us in danger. The rich folks are going to be fine. They're going to be able to get away from that stuff. That's a big problem. When you look at the packing the cord, that's unprecedented. And some people don't understand what that is because there's talking points that's trying to sort of muddle that right now. Well, the Republicans are packing the cord. No, they're actually just elected and they're filling it in accordance with the Constitution. But packing the cord is where you increase the number of justices because you didn't win the elections because you didn't do that. So you didn't win that way, and that's why this Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are not saying what they want to do there, or Elaine Lauria either, and because it's not good, and Americans don't like that. Even FDR, who had unprecedented power, wasn't able to do that. His own party was like, no, this is not right. So I just think you have very diverging paths for the country. So this election is extremely significant, and in this area specifically, it's not just the presidency or the Senate or the Congress, but it's even the local elections are very important. Virginia Beach is up on the ballot. I mean, you have the largest city in Virginia, and there's diverging paths there too. Whether we stick with the Republican mayor or we go to the left, So that's a long answer, but there are a lot of things at stake in this election.
Congress passes laws, the states have to enact those laws. What can Virginia's congressional leaders do to make it easier for states to implement these acts, like, say, the CARES Act?
So let me preface by saying I was on the Appropriations Committee, which is the money committee, and in my opinion, there's nothing that's more important in this area, which has 40-some% of the economy with direct federal spending. So having a seat at that table is very important. If reelected, I will go back to the Appropriations Committee, which is extremely important. The money, of course, when the government does things like the CARES Act, when the U.S. Congress does that, and that money flows down to the states, and then of course they implement them. There are still political decisions there, how they allocate the money and to whom. It's up to Congress to make it, and I think it is the job of Congress to make it easier for states to be able to get that aid directly to the people that need it the most, right? Sometimes U.S. Congress will put strings on the aid or the money that they bring down to the states because it's whatever their intent is for that federal money and where it needs to flow. But I think when you're talking about specifically the CARES Act, it's got to be as fast, as efficient as possible to help people who were harmed by this pandemic, especially via political decisions. But I think that U.S. Congress can exert pressure on the states to do so, and there are some states that are better than others that are doing that are helping people directly or not. And then even U.S. Congress and the CARES Act and moving forward with any aid, that aid should be direct and efficient and effective to the people who need it the most, right? Not be tied up in bureaucracy and eaten up, quite frankly, in layers. It should go straight to help people out.
Anything else you want to say?
I like reruns of Seinfeld, long walks on the beach, and Hershey Kisses.
Have a name?
It doesn't yet. I'm open for suggestions.
Bodie McBoatboat.
Bodie McBoatboat.
Patty.
Patty.
Patty the pontoon.
Patty the pontoon. Patty's not bad.